Hi everyone, Clint Edmondson from Microsoft. In this screencast, we're going to talk about brainstorming a project using the modeling tools in Visual Studio 2010. I'd like to introduce our client for today. It's Tailspin Toys. They're a small brick and mortar hobby shop that sells model airplanes. What they're looking for is an online storefront to supplement their in-store sales. So what I thought we'd do is brainstorm this project by scoping out the solution we'll be building. We'll define the solution's boundaries, that is, what lies inside and outside the system. We'll identify who will be impacted by the solution. We'll discover what valuable activities we need to automate. And we'll uncover constraints that might limit the solution we'll be able to build. And a final goal is we'll kickstart the requirements gathering process by generating a ton of functional requirements. But first, a couple warnings. What you're going to see in this screencast is not standard UML, but don't worry, the UML police won't come after you. It actually has more in common with mind mapping techniques that have become popular in recent years. And I've found it useful on a number of occasions to help me really scope out the project and see it all within one diagram. Okay, so let's get our brainstorming workshop started. I'll switch over to Visual Studio and we're going to create a brand new project. Actually, we're going to create a blank solution file. Name it Tailspin Toys. Okay, so we've got a blank solution. Now I like to create two different projects in my solutions for modeling. And the first is going to be our analysis model. This is where we're going to look at strictly the problem space. We're not going to provide any solutions. We're not going to do any architectural design or detailed design. We're going to look strictly at the domain from the point of view of analyzing the problem we're trying to solve. So we're going to call this Tailspin Toys.analysis model. All right, let's create our first diagram. We're going to create a UML use case diagram as the basis for our brainstorming exercise. We'll call it Brainstorming Workshop. There we go. All right, now we can see over here on the side I've got my tool palette with some use case tools available to us. We've got a nice blank drawing surface and we've got our project and properties. So we're going to be building a solution. We're going to be building a software system. So let's start right off the bat by dropping a system on here and we will call it Tailspin Toys. Now by default the box is white. Now to treat this as a black box, since we're strictly doing analysis, I'm going to darken that. Let's say silver, so we can still read the text. There we go. So there is our solution. Now, first thing I like to do is create a vision statement to drag on top of that that subsystem, so that we know exactly what we're trying to build. So let me plug this in real quick. Tailspin Toys. A small brick and mortar model airplane shop that wants an online storefront to supplement in-store sales. It's nice and short. That'll do. We'll drag that right on top of our Tailspin Toys system. Okay, so now we've got a nice box to represent the system that we're going to be building. Let's talk about who's going to be using it. Well, according to our client, we will definitely have customers who will be purchasing. Well, let's use the singular format. So customer, we will have a store manager who will manage the inventory and process orders every morning when he comes in. And you know, this is a pretty simple solution, so it's going to be a struggle to come with much more. However, I always recommend one additional actor if you need it, and that will be time. The reason being, there may be automated processes that happen over time, and we need some actor to kick those off. So let's use time to represent that actor. And because these actors all talk to the system, we'll go ahead and draw some associations. And maybe line them up just a little bit for layout's sake. Drag that down, straighten it out. There we go. Not bad. All right, so now we have a system and a set of actors that will be interacting with that system. Let's talk about some functional requirements. The easiest way to do that in a brainstorming exercise is to create some comments down below these actors, and then as we discover the functionality they might need, we'll plug it in. Let's give ourselves a little bit of space here. There we go. So, got our client in the room, we potentially bring in some other customers, we've got this up on screen, and we're starting to talk about the context of the solution we want to provide. And immediately, right off the bat, customer, what do you need your customers to do? Well, shop for toys, obviously. And while they're shopping, they may want to, read some reviews. Toys, they may want to, I don't know, heck, maybe they want to, check out, fill up a shopping cart, and check out. After they've checked out, they may want to view the status of an order. Maybe cancel an order. We'll make that really hard. We don't want to do that often, right? Just kidding. And I don't know, maybe receive shipping notifications as their order is processed. And we'll go on throughout the hour, and this will go around and around and around. Won't necessarily stop on any particular actor and fill it in completely. You may, during the process of talking about shopping for toys, you may flip over to the store manager and say, oh yeah, we need to process orders every morning. So we're going to process open orders. We may use sales reports for the day before. We may want to manage customer accounts, reset passwords, things like that, and then manage inventory. Take a look at our stock levels as we commit purchases. We may need to reissue new orders for things. So not too bad. And then over there in time, that's a stretch, Clint. What are you going to use time for? Well, there's always a case where something will happen on an automated basis in almost any non-trivial system. So through conversations with the client, one of the things they decided they might want to do at some point, this doesn't have to be all at once. This can be a set of requirements that may span 3 or 4 or 10 iterations. What we want to do is really scope out the nature of the solution we're trying to solve. So in this case, the client says, I think I'd like to send coupons out to infrequent buyers. It's a technique I picked up from one of those big online bookstores. If I bought something in the past and they have my email address, they haven't bought something in a while, maybe I want to send them a little teaser and give them a coupon or 10% off. So it may not happen in your scenario, but for purposes of this illustration, I thought it would be a good feature to include. So that kind of gets you kicked off. One other thing that may come up as you elicit these requirements from your stakeholders is constraints. So let's go up to the top here and pop in another box of comments and call this constraints. Let's keep those right up top so we can always see them as we design, or as we elicit the requirements that we're going to be needing to design our solution. And right off the bat, we had one that came directly from the vision statement, and that was we need a web-based solution to achieve ubiquitous reach. In other words, we want anyone and everyone who has a web browser out on the internet to be able to come and consume our products. After talking to the client and talking about this specific objective, we also discussed the need for a data center, and the client's obviously too small, so another constraint that's come out is it'll need to be hosted by a third-party web hosting provider, and we will have to help them find that. So that's how we kind of get started. Remember, this goes round and round and round during the course of an hour or so in the brainstorming meeting. Now what I'm going to do is pause the recording, and I'm going to fill this out, and we'll come back and talk again so we can look at what it looks like as the end of a brainstorming session comes about. Okay, we're back. Now at the end of the hour, as I said, you should start to see a fairly filled out model here, and you can see I've added a couple things in each of these sections. So first off, constraints. Well, it turns out while talking about processing orders, we decided that this system must integrate with the existing inventory database administration tools. Our client does not want to spend the money to rewrite those tools. They're already in place, and he wants to leverage what we're doing and and touch those tools. So there's another constraint we're going to have to solve at some point in this system. As far as the customer goes, you can see I've added quite a few things. We flipped over to a web browser and went to one of the online bookstores and just kind of expanded on Shop for Toys a little bit. You can see there's browse by category, browse by price range, search, viewing a list of bestsellers, reading reviews, viewing wish lists. So you can see that it turned pretty quickly into a fairly good sized list of functional requirements, more than we could probably do in one release, but that's okay and that's good. That's one of the goals of this brainstorming, is to really scope out where we want this solution to go in the long term. Down in Store Manager, you can see I've added a few things here as well. So processing open orders, viewing a list of the open orders, fulfilling an order, canceling, viewing sales reports, sending special offers and coupons, and so on and so forth. So we've managed to flesh this out in a period of about an hour with the relevant parties involved, and I think we've got a pretty strong brainstorming session under our belts. So let's flip back over to the slide deck. So I've got a few tips for you to kind of close out this screencast. First, you want to limit those brainstorming workshops to about 1 hour each. Anything longer and you risk burning people out and sidetracking, moving on to other conversations. It's okay to circle back and around and have another brainstorming session, but give everyone a little bit of time to decompress. Maybe give everyone a copy of the printout of the model we generated and tell them to annotate it, mark it up, and bring it back with them for the next meeting. As I did in the diagram, always start with a vision statement, put it right there in the middle so everyone stays focused and keeps in context with the solution we're trying to create. Make sure to clearly identify who lives inside and outside that system. So remember, we took a look at all the different actors, and you really got to root those out. Some systems it's fairly easy. This is a non-trivial example, but as the systems grow in scope, you've got to be very, very careful to clearly delineate those out, because if you miss one, you're potentially missing a huge chunk of functionality that might completely throw off your overall project timeline. And always be sure to describe those goals from the point of view of a user. You want to look for business value here. What do the users hope to get out of this system? This is, again, an analysis model. We're not trying to solve the problem. We're just trying to understand what the problem is and trying to aggregate those into a domain model. And generate tons of ideas and capture them all. The point of this workshop is to get those ideas aggregated and put onto one sheet of paper so that everyone can see and agree to the scope of the project in one place. I've got a couple references. These don't necessarily describe the particular model that we built, but they have tons and tons of guidance around hosting brainstorming workshops that can take it even further than what we've done today. This model was created using Visual Studio 2010. You can download the trial here at Microsoft.com's website. There's also a team blog for the Architecture Edition. That can be found at blogs.msdn.com/vsarch. And also my blog. If you're interested in these materials, both the slide deck as well as the sample project will be available at www.notsotrivial.net. Thanks for tuning in.